What? You want to talk too? Oh, come on. Hello, it's Shawnee. Welcome back. So today I'm going to play around with makeup, and specifically I'm going to use products from Black-owned beauty brands. Now, February is Black History Month, and I thought I would talk about Black beauty history. First, I'm going to tell you about Black History Month, and then I'm going to tell you about some of like the pioneers within society that actually really helped to get, like, they developed products for darker skin tones and things like that. And I think they're the ones that kind of like paved the way for the folks that we really celebrate now, like Rihanna and Danessa Myricks and Pat McGrath and the owners of like Beauty Bakery, Juvia's Place, Colored Rain, just the whole thing, right? So I just went in with the beauty oil from Danessa Myricks. This is pretty much done, but I do have a replacement somewhere around here. What I like about this oil is that it's like a dry oil, if that makes sense. No, it does make sense, but whatevs. And I'm also putting it on my lips, just for a little moisture. And even though I have oily skin, I don't feel like this makes my skin oilier. I actually feel like it just sort of moisturizes, but not in an oily way. Okay, so I'm going to use that as primer. Danessa Myricks doesn't have any other primer that I'm aware of. She might, she might. Ask Jessa, I'm sure she knows. Anyway, so what is Black History Month? It's actually a month in which it's like sort of like designated to acknowledge the contributions that African Americans have made to society. So Black History Month actually started during the Jim Crow era, but it wasn't recognized as like part of the bicentennial celebrations until 1976. Now, the way it came about was that in 1926, Carter G. Woodson, who was kind of considered the father of Black history, created Negro History Week. So it was just a week at first. And he wanted to focus on Black contributions to civilization. Now, the reason that he chose a week in February was because he was thinking of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. So Abraham Lincoln's birthday is February 12th, and Frederick Douglass was an enslaved person who actually didn't know his birthday, but he chose to celebrate it on February 14th. So that is why Carter G. Woodson decided, all right, these people have been instrumental in, Black history, and so we're gonna go ahead and celebrate it in February. So that is how it became Black History Month. So Carter G. Woodson is seen as the second African American to obtain a doctorate from Harvard. The first African American person to get a doctorate from Harvard was W.E.B. Du Bois. So these are just people within the Black and African American community that are just really important, and I think really important to know. In 1951, the good old state of California was the first state to require that Black history be taught in public schools, because before that it wasn't really taught, or it was taught in a way that was just like, putting some rose-colored glasses on the history of Black people in the U.S. Just like kind of what's happening right now. Like I said before, it wasn't made like official until 1976 when President Ford decided to declare it official. So he was saying, I don't know if these words came straight from his mouth, but he wanted to acknowledge the often ignored contributions of African Americans to society. So in the US and in Canada, Black History Month is celebrated every February, and in the UK, it is every October. So let's get on to some pioneers within the community. And I'm trying to decide what product I want to use. I've got, of course, my Danessa Myricks blurring balm, but I also think, maybe I don't. I thought I had, I don't. I thought I had Rihanna's foundation, but I don't. So I'm going to go in with the blurring balm in shade 9. So the first person I'm going to talk about as I put this on with the Danessa Myricks brush is Annie Malone. Now, Annie Malone in the 19th century, or the late 19th century, she was a chemist and an entrepreneur, and she actually found a way to straighten, to chemically straighten textured hair without destroying, damaging the scalp or the hair follicle. You know what, before we keep going, I'm going to use something from the Groundwork palette as a color corrector. So I actually have some of the shades from the Groundwork palette in this magnetic palette because I took it with me for my LA trip. And the Groundwork palette is a little bulkier, though the packaging is gorgeous, but I wanted to, you know, save space. So I'm just gonna put this color corrector, or this orangey shade, I'm going to use it as color corrector and just use it on some of my dark spots. Anyway, so Annie Malone created this, and then she went on to kind of establish other products for textured hair, and she called it, what was it called? Wonderful Hair Grower, and she hired 3 people to like sell the product. And because this was in the era of discrimination and Black women didn't have access to, you know, typical means, typical systems of selling products, they actually went door to door to demonstrate these products and sell them to people. The first time I actually heard about Annie Malone was in grad school. I hadn't heard about her until then, but I have a friend who's pretty much her entire grad school career and post grad school career was focused on focused on Annie Malone and bringing her history and everything to light. So just seeing her be so passionate about it, that was really how I learned about Annie Malone. I had not known before, unfortunately. So she is one of the OGs in terms of beauty within the Black community. Yes, it's hair, but also the Black community spends a lot of money. They're a big part of the like beauty industry and fashion industry in terms of the amount of like money that's spent within those industries. Just lots happening right here. So I'm going in with the blurring balm, and I'm using this brush from Danessa Myricks. I actually want to get her other brush. It's like a bigger brush. I know Jessa has it and loves it, but it's definitely sold out right now. And Danessa is actually coming out with more stuff, and I saw that she's coming out with a Groundwork. Like, so many of you tagged me in this on Instagram. She's coming out with a Groundwork palette that's like pinks and mauves and stuff, and I am excited, and I don't know why she's taking so long, because I need her to go ahead and release it. But I don't know why she's taking so long doing it. I hope it's soon, because I could really use a pick-me-up, and I think that pick-me-up needs to be this Groundwork palette. I hope she makes a ton of them. Okay? I hope she makes different shades, and I'm still waiting to hear about refills for the OG one, but, you know, Danessa's busy, okay? Now, what I like about this is that it really does give like a naturally finish. Like, you're not going to necessarily get super duper full coverage, but you are going to get like a good amount of coverage. I would say medium by using this blurring balm. So let me tell you about the next person. Okay, so in 1958, Eunice Johnson came up with this idea to have the Ebony Traveling Fashion Fair. That sounds familiar, right? Let me grab this primer from Colored Rain. The other primers or the other shades are definitely still packed in my bag. Anyway, so Ebony noticed that for the black models that were attending this fashion fair, there were no complexion products and foundation products that catered to darker skin. They weren't able to find anything that they could actually put on in terms of makeup. And so with the support of her husband, she went ahead and started creating cosmetics for the models. And in 1973, she launched Fashion Fair Cosmetics, which has pretty much been lauded as the largest black-owned beauty brand in the world. Now, I can recall Fashion Fair being a big deal, like in when my sisters were younger and like my mom, and I feel like they kind of fell off the map for a little bit, and it seemed to be like, what, like 2 years ago, I think, they kind of had a resurgence, which I really appreciate. And I actually do have some products from Fashion Fair. I have their creme to powder foundations. I have one in silk suede, and then I have the other one in mellow mocha. Yeah. So actually, I think I'll put a little bit of this on top of the Danessa just to give me a little bit more coverage. Let me know if you ever used Fashion Fair back in the day. Like, I think a lot of people who have been into cosmetics for black people or darker skin knew, I mean, Fashion Fair was the OG, one of the OGs. The OG, really, if I'm thinking correctly. Just, you would go to the counter, what was it, like the cosmetics counter in the malls, the department stores, and you would see all the black people over at Fashion Fair. All right, so what eyeshadow do we want to use? I've got tons of Danessa Myricks, I've got Colored Rain, and I've got Pat McGrath. Okay, so I already kind of used the Groundwork palette that is in here. So I think what I'll do next is I will use this Colored Rain Rebellious Nudes palette, and I'm probably just going to go in with one of the mattes. Also, some of my brushes are still packed. Smartness. Let's go in. I'm gonna start with, I think I'll start with this shade here, which is called I'm Speaking. You know what? I don't have any brushes. Do I have any brushes from a black brand? No, so you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna use our fingers, okay? Because I said I was sticking to black-owned products or brands. And my finger is black-owned. Okay, so going in with my finger and moving on to the next person. Madam C.J. Walker, who was actually born Sarah. She wasn't C.J. Walker until her third marriage to C.J. Walker. And she therefore became Madam C.J. Walker when she started her business. So there's a little bit of controversy. If you ask black folks, who is Madam C.J. Walker? They're going to tell you two things. Either they are going to tell you one of two things. Either they're going to tell you that she was the first black female millionaire, and or they're going to tell you that she invented the pressing comb, the hot comb. Now, there's a little bit of ma'am, move please. That was Rose. There's a little bit of controversy on a couple of those. And now I'm going to go in with either what rules, I do what I want, or big girls don't cry. So something in this row. I can't really decide. Let's try what rules. So here's the thing. Madam C.J. Walker worked for Annie Malone. Remember, Annie Malone was the one who came out with the hair growing products. She worked for her, and then at some point, Madam was like, I'm peacing out. I'm gonna go do my own thing. And she created her own line of hair growth products. Very similar name to Annie Malone's, right? And there's also some thought that maybe Annie Malone was actually the first black female millionaire, but Madam C.J. Walker just had like a better business acumen and did a lot more like advertising and all this stuff. So who knows? We're not in their pockets. Either way, they are some badass ladies, right? So, regarding the hot comb, I don't know if you're aware of the hot comb, the pressing comb, but talk to any black person, black women especially, in their like 20s and up, they will probably have a memory or several of getting their hair pressed or straightened. So basically, the hot comb is like this comb with this, what was it? With this metal part, the comb part, and you heat it up with like fire, like on a stove, and then what you do is you take your hair and you run the comb through it. Especially for like textured or kinky hair, it straightens the hair, and it's like a little bit better than a chemical relaxer that kind of like breaks down the hair shaft and blah blah blah. So many of us have had the experience of having our mothers, sisters, grandmothers, aunties, the girl down the street who go to church with you, pressing your hair, having to hold down your ears so that you don't get burned, but inevitably getting burned. So, I think his name was Marcel Gratteau, a Frenchman, actually invented the pressing comb, the hot comb. But Madam C.J. Walker widened the comb, like it's not really bristles, what is that called? Like the comb part. She improved the comb by using wider teeth. That was what I was looking for. Using wider teeth. And so that made it even easier for textured hair, coarse hair, for the comb to like get through it. Tell me if you ever had your hair pressed. And now there's been like, rather than just having to use it on the stove, you know, like now there are like electric hot combs, hair straighteners, pressing combs. Now, the pressing part is actually part of how you're supposed to use the pressing comb. Like, you're supposed to like pass the comb or try to pass it through, you know, a section of hair, and then you're actually supposed to take it and then press it, and it straightens it out. And a lot of people were a little like, about it, because some people were thinking, is this product that straightens hair, typically a lot of black and African Caribbean people have textured or coarse hair, by straightening it, are they trying to emulate the white or European beauty standard? So there was a little bit of controversy there because, you know, a lot of people wanted to preserve the preserve a beauty standard that wasn't trying to emulate whiteness. So what I really take from Madam CJ, seems like she was, you know, sometimes she was like maybe taking other people's stuff, but she had amazing business skills, okay? Like, she took stuff and either improved it or put her own spin on it, by calling herself Madam CJ Walker. Like, you know, she was getting, like, she was able to sort of break into other, like, communities. She also created a system of how to press hair, and she hired people and she taught them and she gave them pressing combs. So she just had a whole business, okay? And that's why she is so well known within the Black beauty and hair and everything community. Okay, you know, I had to break out my girl, Pat McGrath, and this is the Divine Rose 1 palette, and I'm going to go in with this shade here. So, continuing on with, like, hair stuff, in 1950, Christina Jenkins created a better way of installing hair weaves. Like, before she came around with her method that made it more like permanent, or it was, you could just keep the weave in longer. Before that, weaves were just super temporary, and they were put in with and held into the natural hair with pins. So Miss Jenkins came around and was like, I'm gonna show y'all a much better way, and that sort of started the foundation of how we do weaves nowadays. So let's start going into more of the makeup stuff. You know Iman? You know Iman, right? Big time model, gorgeous woman. Iman Mohammed Abdul Majid. So Iman is a fashion model, actress, pioneer within the beauty community, and what would happen was that Iman would mix foundations to get a color or a shade for makeup artists to use on her for her, like, fashion thingies. And in 1994, she created her own cosmetics brand. I remember when this came out, and I remember seeing the products at, like, CVS and all the little drugstores, and, like, honestly, it's still one of the bigger brands within the beauty community made for darker skin. Super cute. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so someone who was very instrumental in the, like, Black makeup industry is actually a man. Okay, whatever. Anthony Overton. Now, he was actually a lawyer and a chemist, and what he did was he started his own company. The company actually focused on producing, like, baking powder, but he noticed that beyond, you know, catering to drugstores and grocery stores, that Black women didn't have a lot of choices for makeup. I don't know how he figured it out. But what he then created was a makeup powder called High Brown. And this became super popular, and it kind of revolutionized things because a lot of the makeup products for Black women or people of darker skin, they were, first of all, they had harmful ingredients like ground up chalk, and a lot of them were promoting, like, lightening your skin rather than, I guess, enhancing your own natural pigment of your skin tone. So Overton decided that, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and make these products for these darker skinned women to wear. I'm going to go in with Rihanna's concealer. This is the OG concealer. So his company, like, took off, and he started making, like, hair creams and eyeshadow, just really, you know, making stuff for Black folks to wear. Something that I actually learned was that a lot of times they would have companies would have terrible packaging, just like black and white regular packaging, and lower quality like wrapping and things like that. And oftentimes they would have pictures of white women on the products that were supposed to be for black women. But Mr. Overton went ahead and changed that, and it was great because he was actually born into slavery and then was able to create this huge company that catered towards black women and darker skinned folks who like to wear makeup. And like products that are not harmful to your skin. So we started out with, 1973 being when Fashion Fair was created. 1994, we had Iman. Also in 1994, Black Opal came around. Now, what's interesting about this one is that Black Opal, the brand, was founded by a Greek chemist named Nico, and he actually created it because he wanted to help his wife, who's Jamaican, find makeup for her skin tone. So good old husband Nico was like, I got you, babe. I'm about to create this entire brand. Now, in 2015, Melissa Butler presented her company, The Lip Bar. Now, interestingly enough, The Lip Bar, they went on to Shark Tank. And I've never really watched Shark Tank, but my understanding is investors and they pick people, whatever. So they didn't pick Miss Melissa. And so she decided to invest in herself, and now the Lip Bar is sold in Target. And they now have a flagship store in Detroit. Take that, Shark Tank. We all know that in 2017, Miss Rihanna Fenty, she went ahead and came out with, no, it's Robin Rihanna Fenty, came out with Fenty Cosmetics, 2017. And it like shook up the beauty industry because they immediately came out with 40 shades of foundation. So there's that, another black owned brand that really changed the industry. And now people talk about like the Fenty era, or the Fenty effect, where brands are coming out with deeper skin products, blah, blah, blah. Now, the same year, 2017, that's what I'm looking for. Oh, I think I have that brush also in my suitcase. Oh, we'll use this one. I'm going to go into this shade here from the Groundwork palette. I'm going to use it in my brows. So also in 2017, Raynell Stewart, who is actually a media personality. That's not the one I wanted to use. I actually want to use this one right here. Created the Crayon Case, which is a brand I don't hear a ton about anymore at all. It's an online cosmetics company, and I think in a Cyber Monday sale, like in 90 minutes, they sold 100 million, not 100, sold 1 million in product. The same year, Alicia Scott created, in 2017, created Range Beauty, and that was catering towards darker skinned folks who wanted to get into like the clean beauty shindig era stuff. Now, 2017 was a big year because also Mented Cosmetics, that is really well known for like their lipsticks and stuff, was created by Amanda Johnson and KJ Miller. So there was just like 2017, people were doing it. Now let's move on to my cousin, Danessa Myricks. Now, Danessa is a self-taught makeup artist, okay? She also takes like her own photos for her launches and stuff. All the photos you be seeing on like Instagram and stuff, that's Danessa. Anyway, so Danessa Myricks was actually behind a lot of like innovative products launched by companies like Kiss and Benefit Cosmetics. And she was just like, you know what? Why am I letting them take like my stuff? Let me go ahead and create my own brand, which is what she did in 2015. Her like claim to fame, I think, and her like business, the way she thinks about things is she wanted to have products that can be used in various ways. Now, if you like right now, I'm using her Groundwork palette in several ways. If you have used any of Danessa Myricks products, you know that all of her stuff you can use in like 20,000 different ways. And so 2015 is when she graced us with her innovation. And I just feel like she is so innovative. I don't think there's any other word to describe her. Like, she's just doing big things right now, okay? And I think the final person that I will talk about is Patricia McGrath. And maybe knowing more about Pat McGrath will help you understand why some of us just, you know, we really appreciate what she has done and we just find her to be amazing and will fight you about it. Now, I will say, I don't know what's happening with the brand. I don't think she's like, I know she's sold portions of it. So everyone now is like, oh my God, what is Pat McGrath doing? Pat McGrath is living her best life and sold her, at least, I think, significant portions of her company. So she's not the one back there in the lab releasing all the paint. All right, let's go in with some blush and a little bit of powder. Now the powder I'm going to use is the Pat McGrath. It's actually the under eye setting powder, but when I was in New York, I tried to buy her loose powder, and of course the one shade I needed, they didn't have. Anyway, this is no, this isn't the right one. Hold on. Okay, so I just needed to get this puff. This is actually from Danessa Myricks, and I'm gonna go in and set with the Pat McGrath under eye setting powder. So a big influence for Miss Patricia, who's 52 looking good, a big influence is her mom. Her mom was like a dressmaker, and she encouraged Pat McGrath to like experiment with makeup and fashion and things like that. So she was like one of the big influences for Miss Patricia. And in the 1980s, Pat McGrath, who has some Jamaican history or Jamaican ancestry, because you know us Caribbean people be doing the most. I want to say that Danessa Myricks does too, because I swear she looks like my cousin. Anyway, so in 1980, Pat moved to England, and she worked with like Galliano and McQueen. In 1999, she was hired to work with Giorgio Armani on like a new range of cosmetics. What I did not know is that in order to like support herself before she became like a billionaire, Pat McGrath worked as a receptionist. Okay, I've got these blushes from, what do I want to use? Blushes from Danessa Myricks, Colored Rain. Oh no. Why do I be breaking all these things? And also I have a Pat McGrath powder blush. Let's go in with the powder blush. Still using my Danessa. Now, in 2000 and 2001, Pat McGrath was actually awarded the Pantene Pro V Makeup Artist of the Year. Just for her, okay? So in 2004, Pat McGrath was hired by Procter & Gamble, and she was hired as the Global Creative Design Director. Something like that. And then in 2015, she went ahead and started Pat McGrath Labs. By 2019, it was $1 billion company. So let me tell you a bit more about Pat's accolades. Let me go ahead and read these. She has been called the most influential makeup artist in the world by Vogue magazine and other commenters. In 2019, she was included in Time's 100 Most Influential People list. And she is the first makeup artist to be made a Dame Commander of the British Empire. So in 2014, she was appointed member of the Order of the British Empire during the New Year's honors for services to the fashion and beauty industry. 2017, she was the beauty editor at large for British Vogue. And that same year, she won the Isabella Blow Award for Fashion Creator at the Fashion Awards, a British Fashion Council event. She's regularly in the top 10 power list, which is something that highlights the most influential British people across different industries. And then she became the first makeup artist appointed to Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 2021 for services to the fashion and beauty industry and diversity. So Pat McGrath is really all about skin, right? She likes the luminous, glowy skin. And what I find interesting is that she also takes influence or is influenced by fabrics. And that to me makes sense because her mom was a dressmaker and would take Pat McGrath out for like cosmetics and clothing shopping when she was like 6. And you know how Pat has those sequins in her packaging and we're all like, why is this here, Dame? Why is it here? But she takes a lot of influence from sequins and like the luminosity and the different changing like colors and stuff. So I can really appreciate how she's influenced by these different like methods of art. You know what I mean? I think that's pretty cool. So that's why when people bash on Pat McGrath, it's sort of like Pat McGrath has been in the business since like the 1980s, and she really has been someone who has been innovative within the makeup community, not just for Black people. Also, like she's doing the damn thing on several different levels. Like Pat McGrath is always doing like fashion shows, doing the makeup and stuff. You've heard so many people wearing her products, right? Let me find you a list. Naomi Campbell, homegirl Haley Baldwin, Jasmine Sanders, like Ruby Eldridge. She's worked with so many people. Okay, so many people wear her stuff all the time. You're seeing like people wearing Pat McGrath, people wearing Danessa Myricks in their like fashiony stuff that they do. And that's why I'm just like, don't mess with the Dame. Don't mess with any of these people because they have been so instrumental and influential in bringing about cosmetics for darker skinned people and cosmetics that enhance our skin and enhance our features rather than the history that has told us that we need to look more white/European. So, let me find a lipstick Yeah, let me find a lipstick. Okay, so I used the lipstick shade Perfect Red from Juvia's Place, and I went in with the shade Tourmaline from Danessa Myricks Groundwork palette just on my lash line, and I used the Hella Thick mascara from Fenty Beauty. I also put a little bit of this Danessa Myricks Dew Wet Balm in the shade Rose Water. I just kind of put that on my cheeks a little bit. And that is about it. So this is a face of Black owned products. Hopefully you learned some history about Black folks in the beauty industry. The only thing I didn't have a brush for was for my brows. I ended up using this brush that I have just to do that. But that is my fault for not having, like Colored Rain has brushes and other companies. I don't know why I don't have it, okay? So I think that's it. One thing I didn't mention is the reason that I have on red lipstick. One, I love it. Second, or two, is that for a long time within the beauty industry, Black women were told that they couldn't or shouldn't wear red lipstick. As Sheree said, who gonna check me, boo? We look good in red lipstick, okay? Anyways, yeah, I really do hope that some of this was helpful. Even though I didn't cover every brand, every person, every product, you know, I really do hope that you learned something. Even if it's just a little tiny bit, right? I love sharing information, and I also love getting information from you. So if you have any stuff to share, please do that in the comments. Yeah, do that. I also hope that you are continuing to take care of yourself. I will love it if you like the video, and I would love it even more if you subscribe to the channel. I think that's it, y'all. Yep. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.